Hello, welcome to Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. Everybody gets angry, it's part of being human, but when anger starts to affect you and the people around you, that's something else. Today's episode will be an interesting blend of well being, meditation, and of course, anger. And I'm joined by John Froggett, who is a relatively recent convert to meditation. John started out with meditation about 10 years ago as a direct result of feeling unable to control his anger on all sorts of issues. John Froggett, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be talking to you, Dennis.
Nice to be talking to you, John. John, how we would normally start here on Psych Chat is I ask people to share to me their story and their trajectory in life. So tell us how you started. What's the trajectory in life?
My trajectory in life, being the age of 62 now, I started in accountancy when I was 16. And that followed me right the way through to when I got to about the age of 41, and I was sacked by a firm I worked for. Well, it's not a bad reason, I have to tell you, so don't worry, I didn't do anything particularly major. It's just one of those circumstances. And I then so I've been in accountancy all my life, basically, really quite boring. With my wife at the time, we brought up 5 children, and as I say, then at the age of 41 I was sacked, and I decided that it was perhaps time to have a go and go on my own. Now, up to that point in time, I thought I was a fairly easygoing sort of guy. I had no real problems. There was no stresses, no hassles in life. And, you know, you kind of got on with things and everything was sweet. And then all of a sudden, you've got no job. And you're at an age where, you know, perhaps it's time to try and do things on your own and have a go. And anyway, so we decided to start up on our own. I had one client and a telephone, which I dragged into my garage at the time. Hit the phone, and 20 years later, I've got a practice that's now being run by my 2 sons. But that process of starting up on your own, I think, caused me a lot of issues. And I don't think at the time you kind of realise the stress that you're under. You know, 5 children to feed, no real money coming in because, you know, you've got to start from scratch. I didn't have the facilities or the wherewithal to be able to go out and buy a practice. So we started with one client, we built it up. And that stress, I guess, brought me to where we are, where we started to look at the meditation, because my middle daughter, I say I've got 5 children, my middle daughter at the time, I remember going into the office, and she said to me, "You know what, Dad?" I said, "What's that?" She said, "Well, you know, when you come into the office, everyone stops talking. Nobody, you know, you bring this dark cloud in with you, and that's kind of a bit hard to be told, because I thought life was great, but clearly it wasn't, and that was kind of hard to be told, and I took stock of that, and I decided that I needed to do something about it. You know, I mean, if it was at the stage where if you were driving in front of me, Dennis, you were my worst enemy. I had to be in front of you. I had to try and, you know, it was hard. And so anyway, I decided, my wife at the time actually had started to look at meditation. So I thought, well, it seems to be doing her pretty well. I'll give it a go. So I bought probably every book under the sun on how to meditate and how to do this and how to do that. All of which, sorry to the writers that might be listening to this, but I found completely useless. And I was fortunate enough to be in Cambridge. And there was a group in Cambridge that were offering free meditation sessions. So being an accountant and being incredibly tight with money, I decided that perhaps would be a good idea to have a go at. So I went along to this group, and basically I was with them for maybe 2 years, and going into their meditation sessions, and really kind of on a journey of their philosophy, which I didn't subscribe to particularly, and that's one of the reasons why I left. But it opened my eyes to things, and you know, I don't guess talking about spirituality, but that kind of opened my eyes to a few things, and I got on quite well with the meditation, and it's been now part of my you know, life's journey.
It's really a wonderful trajectory, but could you just give us a picture of how it was like, you know, prior to meditation? Just help us understand what it was like. What was the John like before the meditation?
I think that John before, but I mean, John was, I kind of got on with everybody really. I was, you know, I had no problems. I wasn't nasty outside of work, but in work, in a stressful environment, the stress, I think, caused me to be quite angry, shouting, yelling. I've even thrown files across the room before now. And I think that's just part and parcel of the stress of starting up a business. If I'd known what effect that would have had, I would have probably done something about it beforehand. But you know what? You know, the benefit of hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it, Dennis? And we haven't got the benefit of that. But I think that the John before wasn't particularly nice. In fact, a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, who belongs to the same networking group I do, she actually said to me, and she always tells everybody new, that before I started to do the meditation, she was actually frightened of me. Now, I gave her no reason to be frightened of me. At least I don't think I did. But she actually tells people, "Oh, I used to be so frightened of that John Froggett," and maybe that was the image that I was projecting. Maybe I was projecting this nasty guy, this angry guy. You know, I couldn't drive to A to B without probably getting into a row with somebody. It was just, it was awful. It was awful. And I'm just so fortunate that I was told, you know, you've got this problem, you need to sort this problem out, and B, that I found this wonderful thing, you know, called meditation.
And have you always been like that, like since childhood or as a teenager? Or is it just something that?
No, not at all. I mean, I've always been, I was an only child, so I guess I've always been a little bit selfish maybe. But no, I don't have any issues. At school, I was never like in trouble for, you know, anything or for being nasty. I think it was as a direct result of starting a business and having absolutely nothing in terms of money, apart from my check that I got for my pay, which was then about 400 quid. There was absolutely nothing, and the stress of that, I think, had paid a toll. It played a toll on me, and I would never have realised the amount of stress that I would have been under just doing that. But clearly, I was.
And this what you're telling me, how, you know, setting up a business has impacted you. This actually reminds me of what one of my previous guests a few months ago, Tanya, and setting up business has impacted her in a different way. It was more about anxiety. It was more burnout.
Right.
I haven't set up a business on my own, but I could really imagine how stressful it is. I suppose it just affects people differently. And in your case, it affected your anger management. And you're so fortunate that you've come across with, you know, meditation. John, you already told us how, you know, meditation is starting to kind of, you know, help you manage your anger. But what were the initial changes that you noticed as soon as you started meditation? Is it more like, you know, breathing or teaching yourself to calm down?
The initial changes, almost instant changes, was the fact that you had this space. So if something occurred that would normally have angered you and you would have immediately gone into a knee-jerk reaction, you didn't. You had this, you kind of had this magical space that gave you this 10 seconds to think, hang on, am I going to react to this? And when you realize the stupidity of the reaction that you would normally have taken, by the time it happens, you've calmed yourself down a bit. It's all you need. It's just that little bit of breathing space. And meditation instantly gave me that breathing space. And it also gave me, you know what, who cares? Is the thing that's happening or is about to happen that's going to annoy you, is it really that earth shattering that you need to lose your temper over it, affect your heart rate, affect all sorts of things, you know, emotional stress, all kinds of factors, you know, all this adrenaline coursing through your body that brings out all sorts of other diseases? Is it really that important? And it's not. So I think the immediate effect was this ability to be able to just say, hang on a second, let's think about this, and then you're calm. And don't get me wrong, Des, I mean, there are times now, even when you feel a bit of anger, it's kind of, you kind of get, you know, we're all human, you know, we're all human, but certainly nothing to the state that it used to be like. And I'm very grateful for that. I mean, it was hard work. I mean, I don't know if anyone else has tried meditation. It's tough, but once you get it, after maybe, I don't know, 3-4 months, it's fantastic. And then you have this 6-month kind of great feeling where people tend to drop off. I noticed it when we were at the group in Cambridge, that people would come along and say, "Oh, this is fantastic, this is fantastic." 6 months later, you don't see them. So it's something that I would urge anyone out there to try and do and to try and maintain. And I think also with the meditation, what I find is that you have top-up levels. I'm not a sort of guy that needs to go on a 2-week retreat and not talk to anybody for 2 weeks. I don't get that. I don't understand that. But what I do, I find I have levels of top-up that I need. So I might go a couple of days. Perhaps I haven't meditated for whatever reason that might be. But something will happen. A question will arise in my life that I need some answers to, or some clarity of thought on. And I can go away, I meditate 20 minutes, 25 minutes, whatever it may be, not long. And I come back with a clearer vision of what the answer to that question might be and how I should approach it. Or even, do I need to approach it, or should I just leave things be? So it's an amazing way of connecting with sort of the subconscious mind that we don't necessarily listen to sometimes, because the noise and chatter of life gets in the way.
And of course, John, meditation is just one aspect of your life, because I understand you also work with the Samaritans. So if you could tell us about that aspect of your life, working with Samaritans.
Absolutely. As a result of the meditation, because before, the idea of joining Samaritans, which is an organization which is predominantly non-judgmental, so you can tell us anything you like and we're not going to judge you for that, but prior to that, prior to getting into this meditation zone, I was very judgmental. It's just, I'm singing this song, you've got to sing the same song I'm singing, and then you begin to realize that everybody's playing the same tune as you. And because of meditation, we got into the Samaritans. I felt that I needed to try and give something back, but more than that, I think there's a lot of benefit that I can only speak for myself, but a lot of benefit you get from Samaritans. You understand the problems that are out there in this world, the amount of anxiety, self-harm, suicides, all sorts of problems that come across your table, that you really have to have a non-judgmental attitude to, because my morals, or the way I want to live my life, it may not suit you, and it doesn't suit everybody. And all you can do is lend a friendly ear to people, and you're not giving them advice, you're just lending this ear to people, and allow them to talk about their problems, knowing that they're not to be judged in any way, shape or form. Classic, I feel like I want to kill myself. Well, pull yourself together. That's not what it's all about. It's not that way at all. And I think it's a very, very helpful, a very, very useful, and a very, very needed service. Now, I haven't been in doing Samaritans. I had to stop because when I split with my wife, I had different houses. So it was a long story. But so I haven't done that for a couple of years. But funny enough, prior to COVID, I wanted to get back into it, and of course they stopped all their training, which I'd have to go back onto, because of social nobody knew what was going on in the world at that time. So hopefully we're getting back into that again, because I kind of, it's a strange thing to say, but I kind of missed it.
Yeah, well, we all too miss our lives before COVID-19, pre-COVID-19. But anyways, I just want to pick up on what you said earlier, John. You said that well, you're trying to rationalize your how you react with anger. You say that is it really life shattering? And I suppose if you listen to others people's problem, you kind of put things into perspectives that, hang on, I'm kind of angry towards these things where people are actually thinking of taking their lives, and that kinds of put things into perspectives, that it's not really the right approach to your problems.
No, you're absolutely right, Dennis. I mean, if you and I guess on a kind of a selfish basis, that Samaritans was quite good, because you actually sit and you think, what, my life isn't that bad really, and that's not being, everyone has different stories, but there are some horrendous stories out there that my life does not compare anywhere near to, I guess, 90% of the people
absolutely
that I spoke to, and that in itself is quite sobering. And that in itself is also quite a worry, because there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of worry out there. There's a lot of anger as well, to a certain extent. People are angry. There's a lot of mistreatment. It's just terrible. And I think, coming out of COVID-19, well, if we are coming out of it, who knows? But the problems that's going to come, the mental health problems that people are going to be suffering, and not just your general guy that may have some anxiety that's been multiplied by the fact they've been locked away for eight weeks, whatever it may be, but all the frontline workers and the misery and the crisis and and the post-traumatic stress that they're going to be suffering as a result of all of this. I think we're in for a bit of a rocky ride, Dennis, if I'm honest.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's move on to more of your personal stories, Jan. I found out that when you were approaching 60, your wife and mother of your 5 children ended the marriage. So can you please share to us what effect did this have on you?
Well, it was a shock. I mean, we've been married for some 29 years, 7 months or something like that. But I think she's probably thought 30 years of me is probably more than anyone could take at the time. And it was terrible. I was never a great guy being on my own. And I know that sounds a bit pathetic, really, but you're in a partnership and that's how the partnership works. But it was traumatic. Because we still work together as well, because she was obviously part of the business, and we still see each other on a regular basis, and we get on really well. So it's all kind of worked out for the better. But at the time, it was earth-shattering. And I think if it wasn't for the fact that kind of having gone through that, I probably spent about, I don't know, maybe a year on my own, if that. And I think it wasn't the fact that Helen came along, who's now the current Mrs. Froggett, and we've got lots of interest together. I'm not quite sure what would have come out of it all, really. But I wouldn't wish it on anybody, that's for sure. But I think the strength also of the meditation, being able to move yourself away from the moment and kind of get yourself into a zone that's, life goes on, you may not see it at the time, but life definitely goes on. And perhaps I've been also very lucky that we had no real issues. There was no like child, I've got to have the dog, you're going to have the hamster, and I'm going to take you to court, you're going to take There was none of that. It was all very mature. And I would recommend anybody, if they can, to do it that way. I mean, who wants to pay solicitors money anyway? But we fortunately didn't. It was all done. We did it all ourselves, and we were very mature, and we've both had another chance at life, and we're both, I think, thriving in our new environments.
It's great to hear that, how you've managed to bounce back from your previous relationship. But if you could just take us through what it was like living on your own before you met Helen.
I mean, I guess I was kind of lucky in a way, because I have got 5 children, all very supportive of both parents, of which 2 of my sons live in the area where the firm is, where I moved into, the house I moved into, and did up, which I really enjoyed doing, builders in there doing all this. I had lots of friends in Royston. I could be out every night, and your life kind of revolved. But trouble, when you get to 60, your life revolves around other guys that are now married and still married. And you start to feel like when you going somewhere, you're the odd one out. I had some very good friends of mine who would take me to their, to these various parties. They were married and I'm on my own. And it kind of starts feeling a bit odd. If I'm being honest, Dennis, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It wasn't something that I was used to, having been 30 years with someone, to then have to try and go out, and your mind turns to other women, and that's like strange. I mean, how do you deal with that, little chestnut? You kind of get out of the way of doing things, don't you? All the lovely chat up lines and all this stuff. So it was hard. I found it really hard, and the thing that kind of saved me in a way. Well, I say saved me. I wasn't like depressed about it. I had the meditation, which was good. We still had the group going at that time, and that was also a great thing, to be able to go along Monday nights and sit for an hour with a group of like-minded people and meditate for an hour. That was also a grounding thing that I had in my life, and it became quite an important thing in my life. So that was kind of that was incredibly helpful. And then, of course, you decide to get yourself, as they say, back in the saddle and start looking for some company. And the rest of the say is history with Helen. So
Yeah, brilliant. It's really lovely to hear how you bounced back and met Helen eventually. Now, John, I also understand that you have added singing to your accountancy-based career. So is this something that you'd always wanted to do?
No, not at all. It wasn't even on my radar. I used to sing around the house, Dennis, and then on my 60th birthday, which is a week before I met Helen, I decided I was taking guitar lessons, the sort of thing you do, break up the days on your own. And the guy who played the guitar and came around and gave me lessons had a band. So I was having my 60th birthday party, and I thought, well, wouldn't it be good to have your band? He said, that's fantastic. And we were chatting away, and I said, what about if I sing a song? He said, well, that'd be good. What do you fancy singing? So I was thinking about this, and then I met Helen. And she'd be in the house, and I'd be playing all these karaoke tunes on YouTube, singing along. And Helen has got a boutique record label called Folk Stock Records. Mainly, people that write their own stuff, play their own guitars, all very folky. So she's got a fairly good ear. And I was singing, and she thought I could sing. Anyway, I ended up singing this song at my 60th birthday party. It was Creep, which is not a really great song to sing, if I'm completely honest with you. But anyway, from that, she said, well, why don't you sort of look at doing some singing, and maybe we can do some, you've got a good voice, and we recorded a charity song because her daughter, Lauren Deacon Davies, is a producer, quite a very good producer. And we recorded Can't Help Falling in Love. Wise men say only fools rush in, the Elvis Presley number. I did that for a local charity, Home Start, which is a charity that's quite close to our hearts. And we recorded that. I really enjoyed it. And the rest, as they say, is history. I've done things I would never have done, Dennis. I mean, there's no way, the idea of even performing at a karaoke night was something that scared the life out of me. And now I've got to tell you, if you put a mic in my hand, I just sing at anything. And I've been played on BBC Radio 2, Elaine Page's show, which was quite a milestone for me. We did
when was that?
That was probably around about September, October last year.
Brilliant.
We did a version of Empty Chairs, Empty Tables that can all be seen on the Joe. I sing under the name of Joe Rose because John Froggett just didn't seem to be the right sort of name to use, and it can all be seen on my website. So that was a milestone, and I kind of got a few bookings, and it's fun. I like recording. Recording's great fun to do. We brought out my first CD, which got 12. I think it's got 12 songs on it. Oh, I don't know, 12, 15 songs. And I had a gig for my friends. We had about 45, 50 people in a local pub. They all came. I never had so much support in all my life, and that was traumatic, I have to say. Singing in front of your friends who naturally take the mick no matter what happens anyway. But I have to say they were quite supportive. So it's all good. So that's where I discovered singing, and we're still we're still doing it. I'm still down in the studio doing a few songs, and hopefully bring something else out again towards the end of the year.
Now, listening from you, John, how you recovered from your anger issues, and also with your career, with your relationship. Meditation has certainly helped you a lot, and as well as with your singing. Now, for those of us who are for those who are listening, can you also give some ways other than meditation, other than singing, to manage anger?
Well, I think it depends how you look. I mean, singing doesn't necessarily manage my anger. Singing is a pleasure, and the part about singing, it's creative. So you're using a part of your brain you wouldn't normally use, and I think that's important. You need to be able to have a focus, which I didn't realize at the time, that takes you away from your current circumstances. So if you are angry, if you are wherever you may be, if you can move away from that circumstance. Because we all talk about, don't we, the idea of being present and being in the moment. And I think anything that can distract you is a good thing. So if you can, I've seen somewhere, did I not, this colouring you can get now. You buy these colouring books, and you sit there and you do these mandalas, and you're colouring these things out, and you're distracting your mind. You're getting yourself away from your day-to-day issues, your day-to-day anger, your day-to-day worries, your day-to-day whatever it may be. And I think that anything that can distract the mind has got to be a good thing, because we're having all these thoughts. They reckon that, I think I read somewhere that it's like 80,000 different thoughts in a day,
I've read of that as well.
All of which are rubbish. And it's that noise, it's that constant noise, that daydreaming that you get. You're sitting at the computer and all of a sudden you're thinking about something else because it's coming to your mind, which is totally irrelevant. So not only is the meditation or the distraction great, it kind of helps you become more focused as well. Because, and also, interestingly enough, why I don't try to look too far into the future, because, who knows? I mean, that's been proved by the fact COVID's just popped up from nowhere. But, you can't look too far, but it does help you to become more focused, because if you've got yourself something to do, something to aim for, something to look at, as long as you don't become too wrapped up in the ultimate goal, because that in itself can bring disappointment. Because then if you don't hit that target, you've got this this disappointment. Oh, I've had a terrible day, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. If you can be present in the moment, things will get done. So I think, and I forgot what your original question was now, Dennis, but I think
I was just asking, other ways to managing anger. Actually, this is the chance for me to share some, because what I do in this show is halfway through I mentioned some trivias about the topic, and I managed to get some info from Lifehack, and I always visit this website. I'll just share to you some bits that I found. According to Lifehack, one benefit of anger is motivation. They say that when we feel that emotion that riles us up, we also feel motivated. At first, knowing how to best to act is difficult, but in the time of emotion of anger, it can drive us to create something innovative to solve a problem. And another thing, I think that you would agree with this, John, humor can diffuse anger. Realizing that life is stressful is only the first step. The realization is more like lacing up the shoes, that even taking that first step. The first step comes from understanding that anger is an emotion that men and women feel differently, and that the simple act of laughing can diffuse it. And I agree with that. Like if you're angry, if you just try to, look on the bright side and try to rationalize it with I think it can diffuse your anger.
Yeah, I think you're right. Trouble is, I think sometimes if you're in such a state that your mind doesn't allow you to look at the funny side of things, and I think that you need to have that break, that time, that space that allows you to then think, hang on, this is not right. Which is what I was saying to you about this idea originally, this 10-second gap. It gives you a chance to think about what your next reaction is going to be before you actually react. I think that people that are in very stressful situations, I can see the fact that anger's an emotion that can maybe help you drive on, but is it an emotion that you actually want in your life? And I think that it's interesting actually, Dennis, because one of the things I've noticed that prior to getting into this meditation, and prior to kind of getting an understanding of where I want to be with my life, I was quite a stressed guy, and the stress causes all sorts of problems in your body, your metabolism, how you how you look at the world, the cortisol levels, everything else. And I think I went to the doctors about a year ago or something, and I had all the blood tests you could think of. Now I'm quite a big guy, right? I'm like 6 foot. I'm about 19 stone. I'm a big chap, and I'm 62 now, and you think things start going wrong, but I tell you what, every test that came back was fine. Test. Now I put that down to leading a reasonably unstressful life. I'm relaxed. I'm kind of, I kind of find my place in life. I still have goals and ambitions, but I've kind of found my place in life, and I don't lead a stressful life. And I think it's fair to say that we have no in our relationship, me and Helen, we have no stress or no not anger, but nothing leads on to the following day. We clear it up. So you go to bed, you go to sleep, you've cleared the problem. And we talk and we chat and we find out where we are in life, and we kind of don't leave anything hanging over us. So so sorry, I'm rambling, but I can see
that's fine.
anger, and emotion. I get that, but it's not what you want to do. To my mind, there's no point being angry to lead your emotion to lead you on to greater things. I think that has to be more of a deeper, which is what I always find a bit strange, and I never quite get this. I have this spiritual belief, and when people talk about mindfulness, which is quite an instant fix, I don't ever see mindfulness in isolation as being something that's going to be long lasting. It may take you out of the problem temporarily, but unless you have a more deeper kind of, belief, for want of a better word, I don't see how that can be sustained. Yeah, it helps at the time, and I'm open to be, I'm not an expert on this. I'm open to be shot down in flames about it. But I think there needs to be a deeper understanding, because in this society, I think we have very quick fixes. We're always looking for quick fixes, and yes, there are, but not long-lasting quick fixes. There has to be a deeper understanding, and I think that's something that we all develop. I think I read somewhere that, there are many paths but one destination. And I think that's very true. And it's what you find yourself that you can believe in and you can accept and, go forward. And if that leads you into a way where your life is calmer, your stress levels are calmer, you're being nicer to people, whatever that means, but you're being kind of nicer to people, then I think you're on the right tracks.
Yeah. And also what I'd like to add to what you said, that these are really good, tips to manage your anger, is what I personally find helpful for me is that, try to manage what you consume on social media or on the news. I'll just share a bit of a personal anecdote, because before COVID-19, I'm really a news guy. I always watch the news every 6 p.m. constantly. But since COVID-19, I just couldn't afford to watch the news. I really need to skip that habit, because it just makes you a bit, it really makes you feel bad. So I think that it's also the same with anger. If you think that a certain news or a certain social media content really provokes anger, then you should try to avoid that.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the first things they say, isn't it? If you have stress or you have anxiety, don't read the news, don't look at the news, don't, just stay away from the news, because there is no good news. But there is good news out there. It's just obviously, newspapers don't sell newspapers with having good stories to be told.
Exactly, and especially over the weekend. It was.
Absolutely right.
But anyway, we'll not go into it, because we're not a politics chat show.
Absolutely.
We'll move on to your running a meditation session, John. So previously you were running a meditation session, and if I understand it correctly, you pass it over to another person. But tell us about your meditation session.
Yeah, well, what happened was, when I decided to go away from this group, I wanted to, because the dates of the meditation didn't suit one thing or another. And I had a few friends in the local area, in Royston area, and a couple of them said, "Well, what can you start running a session?" And I thought, well, what do I know, but all right, we'll give it a go. And we started off with we got a room booked in one of the local village hubs, and I charged £1 for the session, just to cover the hire of the room, which I have to tell you, some weeks wasn't covered, but never mind. And then we started off, there was about 2 or 3 of us. We regularly, every week, we did not miss. Every week, Monday night, we would go from 6 till 7. And we'd sit there and we'd have a little chat about things. So the meditation session kind of took on, we'd sit down, we'd relax ourselves, we'd get into the meditation. Sometimes we'd have guided meditation, sometimes we wouldn't. Then we'd stop halfway through, chat about what's happened, what's come up through the meditation, any feelings that we've had. And then we'd go back and finish off the meditation again. And we had 5 or 6, and it went to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I believe one night we had 15 of us. And then what you'd find is people join. Oh, yeah, great. I've got anxiety. I've got stress. I've got anxiety. I've got stress. they'd be all right for a couple of weeks, then they'd drop off again, and then, oh, I must come back, I must come back. But there was no commitment to it for some people. Yeah, other people, the same faces for the last 2-3 years. And then when I had to stop, which was due to the fact that I moved out the area, I bought a place down in Norfolk, which meant I was down there from Thursday through until Tuesday morning, effectively. So I couldn't do Monday nights. The group said we'd like to carry it on, and they still meet. And I think their meditations are slightly different to mine because I haven't managed to get back. Where they do more visualization, which I've never been a great fan of myself. It doesn't do a lot for me, really.
What is visualization?
Visualization is you have a meditation where maybe someone's talking about, you find yourself in a wood and you follow the path, and there's light at the end of the path, and you can feel this calmness. So that's visualization. You're putting an image into someone's mind that's calming them down. That's giving them nice thoughts, basically, Dennis. Happy thoughts. Nothing wrong with that. It's not my type of meditation. I like to try and empty my mind as much as I can, and just sit with the thoughts and let the thoughts pass through, and just let things relax, calm down, and see what comes up from the subconscious side of your mind. So that's what it was, and I regret that I had to stop it, but it was just the way it just didn't fit into my new lifestyle of being divorced and living somewhere differently.
John, you could probably tell that I haven't tried meditation myself, although you're actually the second person that I talked about meditation.
Right.
2 months ago, I was speaking to Laura Coleman, and she's also about meditation, and she's running her own session. But if you could just give us some tips, for those who want to try meditation, especially me, I've never tried it myself. What do we have to bear in mind about meditation?
You have to bear in mind that you need to give yourself permission to do it. That's the first thing, right? So I'm a great believer in you have to, we've got this constant battle with our mind, and our mind doesn't want us to do anything that's really good for us. It will try and find a reason to stop us doing it. It's bizarre, but that's the way it goes. So I always give myself permission. Say, okay, right, for the next 10 minutes, let's say, I'm going to meditate. And that's it. So you've set the goal. You've given yourself a choice. You've made the choice, and the choice is you're going to sit and meditate. You then need to find somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed, where kids are not going to rush in, the husband, wife's not going to rush in, and you've got this clear space. I also then find myself a little piece of music, and I don't mean, rock and roll. I mean this very nondescript meditative music you can get on YouTube that just kind of plays in the background. And then I will set the timer on my phone, because then I haven't got to worry. Oh God, how long have I been sitting there? I've got to wait. Is it another so you haven't got to worry about time. You haven't got to worry about the space where you are. You're feeling comfortable. You don't have to sit on the floor cross-legged. A comfortable chair is all you need. Sit nice and upright, and then just allow yourself to put a little bit of music on, not loud, but just kind of there. And then what you're looking at doing is I try to clear the mind, which it's not like it's blank, because by merely saying that you're aware of what you're doing, you've not cleared your mind. But I try to just kind of live with the thoughts. And
actually, John, I'm not trying to sound flippant here, but how do you stop falling asleep during meditation? Because you're describing it to me.
And you're going to sleep.
Telling myself I'm going to fall asleep with that situation.
No, it's awareness. It's not about sleeping. It's about closing your eyes. It's about listening to what's going on inside and being alert. You're alert. You're not going to sleep. You're aware of what's going on around you. You're aware of the noises that are outside in the street. You're aware of the birds. You're aware of the cars. You're aware of what's going on. You're not trying to get to the next stage of dropping out and dropping into a sleep mode. So you are. It's an awareness. Yeah, you keep an awareness of your environment. And then some people will look at their breathing and think about their breathing. So, sort of you take a nice deep breath in, and then you're breathing out 5 seconds, breath in, breathing out. And some people do body scans. So, and I, to this day, still use body scans occasionally if I find myself I can't get in because for whatever reason, I do a body scan. Think about your feet, relax your feet, move up your body, you relax in each part of your body, and then sit and sit and be aware of what's going on around you. But the beauty of it is that you might be aware of the fact there's birds tweeting outside, or there's a car going past the window, or there's a plane going over, but it's not affecting the way you are. You're not thinking about, I wonder who's sitting in the plane. I wonder where that plane's just come from. It happens to have been there. There's nothing you can do to change the fact that car's there or that plane's there. So don't worry about it. And then just sit with your thoughts. Just let these thoughts pass through your mind. And the more you get used to letting these thoughts pass through your mind than hanging on to these thoughts, the easier it becomes. The easier it becomes to appreciate the moment, appreciate the time that we've got and where we are in the space that we're in. And the amazing thing is, Dennis, that if you can get through that stage where the thoughts are coming into your mind and you let them pass, and someone once said to me, think of it like clouds in the sky. It's a bit cliche, but I think it's true. You know, the clouds are passing by. It's a bit like your thoughts. You're not hanging on to those clouds. You're just letting them pass through. And in the early days, I would say to myself, well, I've had these thoughts coming. Let's say that I've got to phone Mrs. Jones tomorrow. I tell you what, I'm not interested now. I'm going to file that into this little filing system I've got in my mind, and I'll come back to that later. And your mind kind of accepts that because it knows it's not ignoring you. You're not being ignored. You're thinking about what's going on, but you're going to look at it later. And the mind begins to accept that, and these thoughts become less and less. And that allows this amazing ability of the subconscious to kick in. And so what I think I said earlier about the idea that you sit down and you have these, you know, something's bothering me. I've got this real worry. Something's happened in life. I've got to sort this out. You sit with it. It's in your mind. You've thought about this. You're not physically thinking about that problem right now, but it's there. Your subconscious will come up and it will help you sort that out. And as I said to you, it may give you the answer, which may be do absolutely nothing, or it could be all sorts of things. Or what tends to happen is, it isn't a problem that you've actually got. You need to just leave it alone. You think it's a problem. Your mind thinks it's a problem. This little thing on your shoulder that wants you to have a bad life thinks it's a problem. But when you get right down to it, it isn't really a problem at all. So just leave things alone. And that's the beauty and that's the ability of meditation. So I would strongly urge you to do what you can and have a go. Even if it's a minute, just find that silence just for 1 minute. And once you've found it for a minute, you want to carry it on. And then you will find a level at which you're topped up for the day, or you're topped up for the next couple of days, that this ability to be calm and this ability to be focused and to just appreciate life and become this, you know, this wonderful non-judgmental human being that goes through life.
Grateful human being, I suppose. Grateful
human being of where we are with our lives and the things that we've got to bless our lives, really.
These are really brilliant advice from you, John. And actually, what I was going to ask you next, because of course, most of our listeners are men. So you've obviously, you know, gone through a lot in terms of mental health, in terms of your well-being. So if you could just give us some general tips for men who are listening to how to look after their mental health and well-being, especially, you know, men of your age.
Yeah, well, it's interesting actually, because when you go to these meditation classes, the majority are women. The majority of people that go to meditation classes are women. I've found that anyway. And I think men, this is going to be a bit of a generalization. I don't wish it to sound bad, but men might see this as all being a little bit wishy-washy. And, you know, I'm a man, so you know what, we just get on it, go down the pub, have another couple of pints, which probably just adds to the anxiety. I don't need this meditation nonsense. It's rubbish. And I was very much like that. You know, from a very angry sort of guy, and someone telling me to meditate. I think you need to come to it. I think with meditation, it's a realization. Everybody comes to meditation at a different time in their life, right? It's something you can't force someone to do. I would urge anyone out there to look at meditation. There are loads of different meditations out there, but look at it. And I guess it's a bit like the idea of, you know what, if you're an alcoholic, you have to say, I am an alcoholic, I need help. And then you start looking for it. If you've got a bit of a wishy-washy attitude to it, it's not going to, I don't believe it's going to help you. But if you've got a real need that you want to try and understand what's happening, then go find out. There's loads of things. There's on the, you know, we're blessed now that we've got you've got YouTube, you've got all sorts of channels where you can look at these things. There's books out there, which I said to you, I mean, having said all that, of course, I got loads of books and I didn't find them any helpful. Or just go along, find your local Buddhist center or something. They always offer free meditation classes. Go along and just take a meditation class, but don't just stick at that one. Try different ones, because they're all slightly different stories. As I said to you, many paths, one destination. So, and something will resonate with you that will help you and make you a calmer individual, or whatever it is you want from it. But give it a try. It's like all things, you have to give it a try. But I believe that, you can't force someone to meditation. It's a realization that you need a fix. And that fix, which doesn't cost anything, that really doesn't, there's no drugs involved, there's no drink involved, it's cheap. People ask, how does it work? Well, I say, it's like electricity, Dennis. I know that if I press the switch, the light comes on. Don't ask me to explain to you how that happens. Know that it's there. And that's the same thing with meditation. So for anyone that is stressed, anyone's got some, and I think that also one of the things that I believe is now being mentioned by doctors for people that have anxiety or depression is certainly try meditation. Perhaps now it's getting a better press, it's becoming more of the norm, which I guess is great for guys, because it's not like, you're not wacky, or you're not taking the local, weed, and you're not gone to join a hippie group somewhere in India. You're actually, it's a sensible daily part of your life that you should try and embrace.
I really like your take, on how men should approach the mental health. And earlier you were mentioning about, it might be especially for meditation, like what you've said earlier, it might be a threat to your masculinity. And this actually reminds me of an idea, of a concept about, men in mental health. They call it toxic masculinity, which incidentally, in the next couple of days, I'll be talking to some people on this topic. Right. So I'm inviting some of the listeners to tune into my YouTube channel, because I'll be talking about toxic masculinity with Dr. Mark Halterhoff, with Deborah Powney, and also with Martin Seeger. We'll be talking about toxic masculinity. And of course, Jan, you were mentioning about it earlier, that the challenges that men are dealing with when, they try to, look for ways to manage their mental health and well-being. And you really give good tips in relation to meditation and, of course, mental health. Now, what I want to ask you, John, is there a particular individual was the greatest influence in your take in life?
No, I think, well, it's a bit unfair. This group I was talking about that I joined in Cambridge I think that they're called the Brahma Kumaris. And if you look at the Brahma Kumaris, I think they're considered to be a bit of a cult. And their understanding of the end of the world is not where I'm at, right? But their basic theme running through it is good. And I guess that was the biggest influence for me to pursue alternatives to their philosophy, but it's still on the same line. So it's still the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian book of. So I guess that was the biggest influence for me as far as meditation was concerned. And then what I've done, I kind of brought it down to, I kind of narrowed all this down to what I was happy with my beliefs to be, and the way I see things, and the way I see the world, the way I see, this is what I'm saying to you about, you can either do this airy fairy fiddle around at the top, or you start a little bit deeper into it. So I have a fairly good, I have a philosophy about, life, does it go on after death, and all this kind of stuff, which is kind of, I guess, if you look at any type of spiritual belief, Buddhist, whatever it may be, it all kind of hinges around the same type of understanding. So they were the biggest, I wouldn't call it, they were the starters of my journey. But other than any other influence, I wouldn't say there was any major influence that's kind of got me on the, you have to find your own way. So you have guides, you get guides along the way, but you have to find your own way. And I think the other thing is you don't necessarily have to conform. So you don't have to conform to a certain spirituality. You don't have to conform to Buddhism. You don't have to conform to the Brahmas. You don't have to conform to whatever it may be, or religion. Just find your own way, and you will find a space there that fits comfortably with you, comfortably with what you believe. And when you start looking at it across the board, all these things that, they all kind of join in. They all come to the same story. It's just a different way of getting there. That's all.
And another thing, John, I always ask this question to all of my guests, and you don't have to mention meditation, but it's fun if you mention it. But what's one thing about mental health that you think we should talk more about?
I think we should talk. That's the thing. I think it's a realization that people have issues on mental health from all walks of life. I happen to be doing a course at the moment on the psychology of COVID-19, would you believe? And it's opened my eyes that you have to talk, but the problem is, you can talk and people will talk to you, but our natural instinct in life is to give them advice. People don't want advice. Listen to people. If someone has taken the time and the trouble to chat to you about things, or chat to you about what's going on, listen to what they're saying. We don't have to offer advice. So, and as we said earlier, that, coming out of COVID-19, there's going to be loads of people, the nurse down the road that you've met, the guy that's working in Tesco's that really has come face to face with people all the time who can have these anxiety issues, and they're not really sure what they should be doing. My advice to them is talk to someone who is not going to try and A, offer you advice, B, call you an idiot, and C, try and get you to pull your life together, because that ain't how it works. So be open and find someone you can chat to. And that's got to be the biggest thing you can try and do to unload these problems. And of course, then if time is right, then meditation's the next thing for you to be looking at. Go for a run, but trouble is you can't keep running away from problems. You have to sometimes address these things, address your anxieties, address your worries. And I think that's something that can be done by talking to people.
And John, do you have any other distressing outlet, shall we say? You mentioned that you're into singing, you're doing meditation. Any other ways to relax yourself?
Funny enough, I've started running again. I did the London Marathon in 2013, and I never put my shoes on again after that. It was the most horrendous experience, but a fantastic experience at the same time. So I always find that running is quite a good thing for me. Exercise is quite a good thing. It just, you're just out there, you're doing it, you're pushing yourself, and you come back feeling completely worn out, and that's got to be a good feeling. And also really anything, Dennis, that will take your mind and focus your mind. Rock climbing, whatever it may be, something where you're going to need all your attention, is a good thing to relax your brain. And your brain, believe me, needs relaxing.
You've been doing incredible work when it comes to meditation, and you've also got your accountancy-based career. So what's one thing that you want the people to know about your work? What's the big message, John?
Oh, well, that's a big question, isn't it, really? I think the one thing that I would take away from I've started something, or we're going to be starting something called Down to Earth Retreats, which is going to be, as it sounds, it's down to earth. It's not wishy-washy. It's going to be a kind of, meditation for the 20th century, which sounds a bit strange because obviously this is something that's 2,000 years old plus. But you know what? We all have different. The humanity takes different paths, and I don't believe you can always pop back to 2,000 years ago, because our circumstances now are completely different to what they were then. Our life, our structures, our businesses, our minds, our stresses are different. So the one thing I would take from it is that I would try to look at meditation as a new way forward, almost, that fits into our busy lives and gives us some peace. That's what I want to take forward, and that's what I want to try and develop over the next how many years I've got left on this wonderful planet.
And of course, that's a really lovely message, Jan. And we're already near towards the end of the show. So finally, John, what's in the pipeline?
The pipeline for me is more singing. to become more retired from accountancy than I am at the moment. Obviously, COVID has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works as far as that's concerned, but we're trying to do, we're getting on top of that, because everyone's got to go a new way of working now, Dennis. It's, the life is different to what it was before COVID. And we're also looking at trying to develop the down-to-earth retreats, which is something I feel quite passionate about. As I said
could you
earlier,
please help spell it for me? What's the name of your retreat?
Down-to-earth retreats.
Down-to-earth retreats.
That's what we want to try and push. We were going to try and push it at the beginning of this year, but obviously circumstances have run away with us slightly. But it's something I want to push now. And see where that takes us into the next next year. And people that don't need to be frightened about it. It's probably a bit daunting walking into a Buddhist temple or walking into something else where people are wearing robes and things. Well, this is like, as I said to you, meditation for the 2021s really.
Mm-hmm. And where can we learn more about you? Do you have a website for Down to Earth?
No, I think the answer to that is we're in the process of developing Down to Earth retreats. But if anyone wants to know about my singing, they can look at Joe Rose Sings, which has got a Facebook page, or just look me up, John Froggett, and you'll see me there as well. And if anyone out there's got any questions, by all means get in touch, and I'm very happy to try to, give the benefit of what little wisdom I have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really brilliant. I look forward to hearing about your Down to Earth retreat. It sounds really an exciting project of you.
Okay, thank
you. What about for your accounting career? Is there any other thing in the pipeline?
As I said, my two sons have both decided to taking that on board now, and in fairness, they're doing a great job. They're taking on. We've got our staff. We've got about 9 or 10 staff, and they're all home working now, and that's been taken on really well. It's just I just want to retire from it. I've had enough of counting things. I just want to do what I want to do now, and get on with retreats and singing and just really enjoying life and just kind of spreading the word on meditation as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that once like we have the green signal, everybody would love to go to a retreat of some sort. I can't wait to. I'm a freelancer. I always work from home, but I really can't wait to meet. Actually, last week I met my in-laws up north, but I just want to do things normally. This is still not normal. But anyways, John, it's really been fascinating conversation with you. I've learned so much about meditation, although I haven't tried it myself, but certainly that's on the list. I'm sorry, I missed what you said, John.
I said you must try it, Dennis.
Yeah, I think I should, especially for freelancers like me, because all of the time we're just in the four corners of our room. It's a bit hectic, it's a bit stressful, and a bit routinary as well. I would imagine that I could really benefit from meditation.
Right, and I think that's the next thing that's going to affect people now. The fact that a lot of people are working from home, they're not used to it, who prefer that group environment, chatting by the coffee machine. They're not going to get that, which is extra stress and extra anxiety that's going to be put onto the population. It's going to be a real problem.
Exactly. Now, on that note, John, it's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you.
We've got a few more minutes, and I'll use this to invite the listeners about my work. And for my listeners, you probably know that I'm managing psychology, mental health, and well-being website. It's called PsychReg. So if you want to learn more about psychology and the same themes, you have to visit PsychReg. It's www.psychreg.org.
Excellent.
And I also have a book. It's called Let's Talk About Behavior. So you just type it in Amazon with my name and you'll find my book.
Excellent.
And I'm also on YouTube. I talk to interesting people like John on my YouTube channel. And like what I've mentioned to you earlier, in a couple of days, I'll be talking to some experts, and we'll be talking about toxic masculinity, which is kind of like hinged to what John was saying earlier, like there's a different approach when it comes to, managing mental health with men. And of course, this interview will be uploaded on SoundCloud. So check out the MRS SoundCloud account, Men's Registration account. And of course, visit our website. You can see all the previous episodes of Side Chat on Men's Radio Station. It's been lovely talking to you, John. For
Thank you,
all of you
Dennis.
who are listening, you can always try meditation. You can always try some form of relaxation. And I'm quite sure, just like John, you'll be able to benefit from it. And this has been Dennis Relojo-Howell. This is Psych Chat at Men's Radio Station. And that has been a conversation with John Froggett, who managed to control his anger because of meditation and, of course, with his singing and other forms of relaxation. I'll see you next week for another episode of Psych Chat here at Men's Radio Station. Thanks for listening and do look after yourself.
Thank you, Dennis.